Chapter 1 of Categories. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Jeffrey Edwards. Categories by Aristotle. Translated by Octavius Freer Owen. Chapter 1 of Homonyms, Synonyms, Paronyms. Things are termed homonymous, of which the name alone is common, but the definition (of substance according to the name) is different. Thus, "man" and "the picture of a man" are each termed "animal," since of these the name alone is common, but the definition (of the substance according to the name) is different, as if any one were to assign what was in either to constitute it "animal," he would allege the peculiar definition of each. But those are called synonyms, of which both the name is common, and the definition (of the substance according to the name) is the same, as both "a man" and "an ox" are "animal." For each of these is predicated of as "animal" by a common name, and the definition of the substance is the same, since if a man gave the reason of each as to what was in either to constitute it "animal," he would assign the same reason. Again, things are called paronyms, which, though differing in case, have their appellation (according to name) from some thing, as "a grammarian" is called so from "grammar," and "a courageous man" from "courage." Chapter 2 of the logical division of things and their attributes. Of things discoursed upon, some are enunciated after a complex, others after an incomplex manner. The complex as "a man runs," "a man conquers," but the incomplex as "man," "ox," "runs," "conquers." Likewise also, some things are predicated of a certain subject, yet are in no subject, as "the man" is predicated of a subject, i.e. of "some certain man," yet is in no subject. Others again are in a subject, yet are not predicated of any subject, I mean by a thing being in a subject, that which is in any thing not as a part, but which cannot subsist without that in which it is, as "a certain grammatical art" is in a subject, "the soul," but is not predicated of any, and "this white thing" is in a subject, "the body," for all "colour is in body," but is predicated of no subject. But some things are both predicated of, and are in a subject, as "science" is in a subject, "the soul," but is predicated of a subject, namely, "grammar." Lastly, some are neither in, nor are predicated of any subject, as "a certain man," and "a certain horse," for nothing of this sort is either in, or predicated of a certain subject. In short, individuals, and whatever is one in number, are predicated of no subject, but nothing prevents some of them from being in a subject. For "a certain grammatical art" is amongst those things which are in a subject, but is not predicated of any subject. Chapter 3. Of the connexion between predicate and subject. When one thing is predicated of another, as of a subject, whatever things are said of the predicate may be also said of the subject, as "the man" is predicated of "some certain man," but "the animal" is predicated of "the man," wherefore "the animal" will be predicated of "some certain man," since "the certain man" is both "man" and "animal." The differences of different genera and of things not arranged under each other are diverse also in species, as of "animal" and "science." For the differences of "animal" are "quadruped," "biped," "winged," "aquatic." But none of these forms the difference of "science," since "science" does not differ from "science" in being "biped." But as to subaltern genera, there is nothing to prevent the differences being the same, as the superior are predicated of the genera under them, so that as many differences as there are of the predicate, so many will there also be of the subject. Chapter 4. Enumeration of the categories. Of things incomplex enunciated, each signifies either substance, or quantity, or quality, or relation, or where, or when, or position, or possession, or action, or passion. But substance is (to speak generally) as "man," "horse," quantity as "2," or "3 cubits," quality as "white," a "grammatical thing," relation as "a double," "a half," greater, where as "in the forum," "in the lyceum," when as "yesterday," "last year," position as "he reclines," "he sits," possession as "he is shod," "he is armed," action as "he cuts," "he burns," passion as "he is cut," "he is burnt." Now each of the above, considered by itself, is predicated neither affirmatively nor negatively, but from the connexion of these with each other, affirmation or negation arises. For every affirmation or negation appears to be either true or false, but of things enunciated without any connexion, none is either true or false, as "man," "white," "runs," "conquers." Chapter 5. Of substance. Substance, in its strictest, first, and chief sense, is that which is neither predicated of any subject, nor is in any, as "a certain man," or "a certain horse." But secondary substances are they in which as species, those primarily named substances are inherent, that is to say, both these, and the genera of these species, as a certain man, exists in man, as in a species, but the genus of this species is animal. These, therefore, are termed secondary substances, as both man and animal. But it is evident from what has been said that of those things which are predicated of a subject, both the name and the definition must be predicated of the subject, as man is predicated of some certain man, as of a subject, and the name at least is predicated, for you will predicate man of some certain man, and the definition of man will be predicated of some certain man, for a certain man is both man and animal. Wherefore both the name and the definition will be predicated of a subject. But of things which are in a subject, for the most part, neither the name nor the definition is predicated of the subject. Yet with some there is nothing to prevent the name from being sometimes predicated of the subject, though the definition cannot be so, as whiteness, being in a body, as in a subject, is predicated of the subject, for the body is termed white. But the definition of whiteness can never be predicated of body. All other things, however, are either predicated of primary substances, as of subjects, or are inherent in them, as in subjects. This indeed is evident from several obvious instances. Thus, animal is predicated of man, and therefore is also predicated of some certain man. For if it were predicated of no man particularly, neither could it be of man universally. Again, color is in body, therefore also is it in some certain body. For if it were not in some one of body singularly, it could not be in body universally. So that all other things are either predicated of primary substances, as of subjects, or are inherent in them, as in subjects. If therefore the primal substances do not exist, it is impossible that any one of the rest should exist. But of secondary substances, species is more substance than genus, for it is nearer to the primary substance. And if any one explains what the primary substance is, he will explain it more clearly and appropriately by giving the species rather than the genus, as a person defining a certain man would do so more clearly by giving man than animal. For the former is more the peculiarity of a certain man, but the latter is more common. In like manner, whoever explains what a certain tree is, will define it in a more known and appropriate manner, by introducing tree than plant. Besides the primary substances, because of their subjection to all other things, and these last being either predicated of them, or being in them, are for this reason especially termed substances. Yet the same relation as the primary substances bear to all other things, does species bear to genus. For species is subjected to genus, since genera are predicated of species, but species are not reciprocally predicated of genera. Whence the species is rather substance than the genus. Of species themselves, however, as many as are not genera, are not more substance, one than another. For he will not give a more appropriate definition of a certain man who introduces man, than he who introduces horse into the definition of a certain horse. In like manner of primary substances, one is not more substance than another, For a certain man is not more substance than a certain ox. With reason, therefore, after the first substances of the rest, species and genera alone are termed secondary substances, since they alone declare the primary substances of the predicates. Thus if any one were to define what a certain man is, he would, by giving the species or the genus, define it appropriately, and will do so more clearly by introducing man than animal. But whatever else he may introduce, he will be introducing in a manner foreign to the purpose, as if he were to introduce white or runs, or anything else of the kind, so that with propriety of the others, these alone are termed substances. Moreover, the primary substances, because they are subject to all the rest, and all the others are predicated of, or exist in, these, are most properly termed substances. But the same relation which the primary substances bear to all other things, do the species and genera of the first substances bear to all the rest, since of these are all the rest predicated. For you will say that a certain man is a grammarian, and therefore you will call both man and animal a grammarian, and in like manner of the rest. It is common, however, to every substance not to be in a subject, for neither is the primal substance in a subject, nor is it predicated of any, but of the secondary substances. That none of them is in a subject is evident from this. Man is predicated of some certain subject, man, but is not in a subject, for man is not in a certain man. So also animal is predicated of some certain subject, man, but animal is not in a certain man. Moreover, of those which are in the subject, nothing prevents the name from being sometimes predicated of the subject, but that the definition should be predicated of it is impossible. Of secondary substances, however, the definition and the name are both predicated of the subject. For you will predicate the definition of a man concerning a certain man, and likewise the definition of animal, so that substance may not be amongst the number of those things which are in a subject. This, however, is not the peculiarity of substance, but difference also is of the number of those things not in a subject, for pedestrian and biped are indeed predicated of a man, as of a subject, but are not in a subject, for neither biped nor pedestrian is in man. The definition also of difference is predicated of that concerning which difference is predicated, so that if pedestrian be predicated of man, the definition of pedestrian will be predicated of man, for man is pedestrian. Nor let the parts of substances, being in wholes as in subjects, perplex us, so that we should at any time be compelled to say that they are not substances. For in this manner things would not be said to be in a subject which are in any as parts. It happens indeed both to substances and to differences alike, that all things should be predicated of them univocally, for all the categories from them are predicated either in respect of individuals or of species, since from the primary substance there is no category, for it is predicated in respect of no subject. But of secondary substances, species indeed is predicated in respect of the individual, but genus in respect to species, and to individuals. So also differences are predicated as to species and as to individuals. Again, the primary substances take the definition of species and of genera, and the species the definition of the genus. For as many things as are said of the predicate, so many also will be said of the subject. Likewise both the species and the individuals accept the definition of the differences. Those things at least were univocal, of which the name is common, and the definition the same, so that all which arise from substances and differences are predicated univocally. Nevertheless, every substance appears to signify this particular thing. As regards then the primary substances, it is unquestionably true that they signify a particular thing, for what is signified is individual, and one in number. But as regards the secondary substances, it appears in like manner that they signify this particular thing, by the figure of appellation. When any one says, man, or animal, yet it is not truly so, but rather they signify a certain quality. For the subject is not one, as the primary substance, but man and animal are predicated in respect of many. Neither do they signify simply a certain quality, as white. For white signifies nothing else but a thing of a certain quality, but the species and the genus determine the quality about the substance, for they signify what quality a certain substance possesses. Still a wider limit is made by genus than by species, for whoever speaks of animal comprehends more than he who speaks of man. It belongs also to substances that there is no contrary to them, since what can be contrary to the primary substance, as to a certain man, or to a certain animal, for there is nothing contrary, either at least to man, or to animal. Now, this is not the peculiarity of substance, but of many other things, as for instance of quantity, for there is no contrary to 2 cubits, nor to 3 cubits, nor to 10, nor to anything of the kind, unless some one should say that much is contrary to little, or the great to the small. But of definite quantities none is contrary to the other. Substance also appears not to receive greater or less. I mean not that one substance is not more or less substance than another, for it has been already said that it is, but that every substance is not said to be more or less that very thing that it is, as if the same substance be man, he will not be more or less man, neither himself than himself, nor another man than another, for one man is not more man than another, as one white thing is more and less white than another, and one beautiful thing more and less beautiful than another, and the same thing more or less than itself. So a body being white is said to be more white now than it was before, and if warm, it is said to be more or less warm. Substance at least is not termed more or less substance, since man is not said to be more man now than before, nor any one of such other things as are substances. Hence substance is not capable of receiving the greater and the less. It appears however to be especially the peculiarity of substance, that being one and the same in number, it can receive contraries, which no one can affirm of the rest which are not substances, as that being one in number, they are capable of contraries. Thus, colour, which is one and the same in number, is not white and black, neither the same action, also one in number, both bad and good. In like manner of other things, as many as are not substances. But substance being one and the same in number can receive contraries, as a certain man being one and the same is at one time white, and at another black, and warm and cold, and bad and good. in respect of none of the rest does such a thing appear, except some one should object by saying that a sentence and opinion are capable of receiving contraries. For the same sentence appears to be true and false. Thus if the statement be true that some one sits when he stands up, this very statement will be false. And in a similar manner in the matter of opinion, for if any one should truly opine that a certain person sits, when he rises up he will opine falsely, if he still holds the same opinion about him. Still, if any one should even admit this, yet there is a difference in the mode. For some things in substances, being themselves changed, are capable of contraries, since cold, being made so from hot, has changed, for it is changed in quality, and black from white, and good from bad. In like manner as to other things, each one of them receiving change is capable of contraries. The sentence indeed, and the opinion remain themselves altogether immovable, but the thing being moved, a contrary is produced about them. The sentence indeed remains the same, that some one sits, but the thing being moved, it becomes at one time true, and at another false. Likewise as to opinion, so that in this way it will be the peculiarity of substance to receive contraries according to the change in itself. But if any one admitted this, that a sentence and opinion can receive contraries, this would not be true. For the sentence and the opinion are not said to be capable of contraries in that they have received anything, but in that about something else a passive quality has been produced. For in that a thing is, or is not, in this is the sentence said to be true, or false, not in that itself is capable of contraries. In short, neither is a sentence nor an opinion moved by anything, whence they cannot be capable of contraries, no passive quality being in them. Substance at least, from the fact of itself receiving contraries, is said in this to be capable of contraries, for it receives disease, and health, whiteness and blackness, and so long as it receives each of these, it is said to be capable of receiving contraries. Wherefore it will be the peculiarity of substance, that being the same, and one in number, according to change in itself, it is capable of receiving contraries, and concerning substance, this may suffice. Chapter 6. Of Quantity. Of quantity, one kind is discrete, and another continuous. The one consists of parts, holding position with respect to each other, but the other of parts which have not that position. Discrete quantity is, as number and sentence, but continuous, as line, superficies, body, besides place and time. For of the parts of number there is no common term, by which its parts conjoin, as if 5 be a part of 10, 5 and 5 conjoin at no common boundary, but are separated. 3 and 7 also conjoin at no common boundary. Nor can you at all take a common limit of parts in number, but they are always separated, whence number is of those things which are discrete. In like manner a sentence, for that a sentence is quantity is evident, since it is measured by a short and long syllable. But I mean a sentence produced by the voice, as its parts concur at no common limit. For there is no common limit at which the syllables concur, but each is distinct by itself. A line, on the contrary, is continuous, for you may take a common term at which its parts meet, namely a point, and of a superficies, a line, for the parts of a superficies coalesce in a certain common term. So also you can take a common term in respect of body, namely a line, or a superficies, by which the parts of body are joined. Of the same sort are time and place, for the present time is joined both to the past and to the future. Again, place is of the number of continuous things, For the parts of a body occupy a certain place, which parts join at a certain common boundary. Wherefore also the parts of place, which each part of the body occupies, join at the same boundary as the parts of the body, so that place will also be continuous, since its parts join at one common boundary. Moreover, some things consist of parts having position with respect to each other, but others of parts not having such position. Thus the parts of a line have relative position, for each of them lies somewhere, and you can distinguish and set out where each lies in a superficies, and to which part of the rest it is joined. So also the parts of a superficies have a certain position, for it may be in like manner pointed out where each lies, and what have relation to each other, and the parts of a solid, and of a place, in like manner. On the contrary, in respect of number, it is impossible for any one to show that its parts have any relative position, or that they are situated anywhere, or which of the parts are joined to each other. Nor as regards parts of time, for not one of the parts of time endures, but that which does not endure, how can it have any position? You would rather say that they have a certain order, inasmuch as one part of time is former, but another latter. In the same manner it is with number, because one is reckoned before two, and two before three, and so it may have a certain order, but you can by no means assume that it has position. A speech likewise, for none of its parts endures, but it has been spoken, and it is no longer possible to bring back what is spoken, so that there can be no position of its parts, since not one endures. Some things therefore consist of parts having position, but others of those which have not position. What we have enumerated are alone properly termed quantities, all the rest being so denominated by accident. For looking to these, we call other things quantities, as whiteness is said to be much, because the superficies is great, and an action long, because of its time being long, and motion also is termed much. Yet each of these is not called a quantity by itself. For if a man should explain the quantity of an action, he will define it by time, describing it as yearly, or something of the sort. And if he were to explain the quantity of whiteness, he will define it by the superficies, for as the quantity of the superficies, so he would say is the quantity of the whiteness. Whence the particulars we have mentioned are alone properly of themselves termed quantities, none of the rest being so of itself, but according to accident. Again, nothing is contrary to quantity, for in the definite it is clear there is nothing contrary, as to "2 cubits," or to "3," or to "superficies," or to anything of this kind, for there is no contrary to them, except indeed a man should allege that "much" was contrary to "little," or the "great" to the "small." Of these, however, none is a quantity, but rather belongs to relatives, since nothing, itself by itself, is described as great or small, but from its being referred to something else. A mountain, for instance, is called "little," but a millet seed "large," from the fact of the one being greater, but the other less, in respect of things of the same nature. Whence the relation is to something else, since if each were called "small," or "great" of itself, the mountain would never have been called "small," nor the seed "large." We say also that there are "many" men in a village, but "few" at Athens, although these last are more numerous, and "many" in a house, but "few" in a theatre, although there is a much larger number in the latter. Besides, "2 cubits," 3, and everything of the kind signify quantity, but "great" or "small" does not signify quantity, but rather relation, for the "great" and small are viewed in reference to something else, so as evidently to appear relatives. Whether, however, any one does or does not admit such things to be quantities, still there is no contrary to them, for to that which cannot of itself be assumed, but is referred to another, how can there be a contrary? Yet more, if great and small be contraries, it will happen that the same thing at the same time receives contraries, and that the same things are contrary to themselves. For it happens that the same thing at the same time is both great and small. Something in respect of this thing is small, but the same in reference to another is large, so that the same thing happens at the same time to be both great and small, by which at the same moment it receives contraries. Nothing, however, appears to receive contraries simultaneously, as in the case of substance, for this indeed seems capable of contraries, yet no one is at the same time sick and healthy, nor a thing white and black together, neither does anything else receive contraries at one and the same time. It happens also that the same things are contrary to themselves, since if the great be opposed to the small, but the same thing at the same time be great and small, the same thing would be contrary to itself. But it is amongst the number of impossibilities that the same thing should be contrary to itself, wherefore the great is not contrary to the small, nor the many to the few, so that even if some one should say that these do not belong to relatives, but to quantity, still they will have no contrary. The contrariety, however, of quantity seems especially to subsist about place, since men admit upward to be contrary to downward, calling the place toward the middle downward, because there is the greatest distance from the middle to the extremities of the world. They appear also to deduce the definition of the other contraries from these, for they define contraries to be those things which, being of the same genus, are most distant from each other. Nevertheless, quantity does not appear capable of the greater and the less, as for instance, 2 cubits, for one thing is not more 2 cubits than another, neither in the case of number, since 3 or 5 are not said to be more than 3 or 5, neither 5 more 5 than 3 3. One time also is not said to be more time than another. In short, of none that I have mentioned is there said to be a greater or a less, wherefore quantity is not capable of the greater and less. Still it is the especial peculiarity of quantity to be called equal and unequal, for each of the above mentioned quantities is said to be equal and unequal. Thus body is called equal and unequal, and number and time are predicated of as equal and unequal. Likewise, in the case of the rest enumerated, each one is denominated equal and unequal. Of the remainder, on the contrary, such as are not quantities do not altogether appear to be called equal and unequal. As for instance, disposition is not termed entirely equal and unequal, but rather similar and dissimilar, and whiteness is not altogether equal and unequal, but rather similar and dissimilar. Hence the peculiarity of quantity will especially consist in its being termed equal and unequal. Chapter 7 of Relatives. Such things are termed relatives, which are said to be what they are from belonging to other things, or in whatever other way they may be referred to something else. Thus, the greater is said to be what it is in reference to another thing, for it is called greater than something. And the double is called what it is in reference to something else, for it is said to be double a certain thing, and similarly as to other things of this kind. Such as these are of the number of relatives, as habit, disposition, sense, knowledge, position, for all these specified are said to be what they are from belonging to others, or however else they are referable to another, and they are nothing else. For habit is said to be the habit of some one, knowledge the knowledge of something, position the position of somewhat, and so the rest. Relatives, therefore, are such things as are said to be what they are from belonging to others, or which may somehow be referred to another, as a mountain is called great, in comparison with another, for the mountain is called great in relation to something, and like is said to be like somewhat. And other things of this sort are similarly spoken of in relation to something. Reclining, station, sitting, are nevertheless certain positions, and position is a relative. But to recline, to stand, or to sit, are not themselves positions, but are paronymously denominated from the above named positions. Yet there is contrariety in relatives, as virtue is contrary to vice, each of them being relative, and knowledge to ignorance. But contrariety is not inherent in all relatives, since there is nothing contrary to double, nor to triple, nor to anything of the sort. Relatives appear, notwithstanding, to receive the more and the less, for the like and the unlike are said to be so more and less, and the equal and the unequal are so called more and less, each of them being a relative, for the similar is said to be similar to something, and the unequal unequal to something. Not that all relatives admit of the more and less, for double is not called more and less double, nor any such thing, but all relatives are styled so by reciprocity, as the servant is said to be servant of the master, and the master master of the servant, and the double double of the half, also the half half of the double, and the greater greater than the less, and the less less than the greater. In like manner it happens as to other things, except that sometimes they differ in diction by case, as knowledge is said to be the knowledge of something knowable, and what is knowable by knowledge. Sense also is the sense of the sensible, and the sensible is sensible by sense. Sometimes, indeed, they appear not to reciprocate, if that be not appropriately attributed to which relation is made. But here he who attributes errs. For instance, a wing of a bird, if it be attributed to the bird, does not reciprocate, for the first is not appropriately attributed, namely, wing to bird, since wing is not predicated of it so far as it is bird, but so far as it is winged. As there are wings of many other things which are not birds, so that if it were appropriately attributed, it would also reciprocate, as wing is the wing of a winged creature, and the winged creature is winged by the wing. It is sometimes necessary perhaps even to invent a name, if there be none at hand, for that to which it may be appropriately applied, e.g. if a rudder be attributed to a ship, it is not properly so attributed, for a rudder is not predicated of a ship so far as it is ship, since there are ships without rudders. Hence they do not reciprocate, inasmuch as a ship is not said to be the ship of a rudder. The attribution will perhaps be more appropriate if it were attributed thus: a rudder is the rudder of something ruddered, or in some other way. Since a name is not assigned, a reciprocity also occurs, if it is appropriately attributed, for what is ruddered by a rudder. So also in other things. The head, for example, will be more appropriately attributed to something headed than to animal, for a thing has not a head so far as it is an animal, since there are many animals which have not a head. Thus any one may easily assume those things to which names are not given, if from those which are first he assigns names to those others also with which they reciprocate, as in the cases adduced, winged from wing, and ruddered from rudder. All relatives, therefore, if they be properly attributed, are referred to reciprocals, since if they are referred to something casual, and not to that to which they relate, they will not reciprocate. I mean that neither will any one of those things which are admitted to be referable to reciprocals reciprocate, even though names be assigned to them, if the thing be attributed to something accidental, and not to that to which it has relation. For example, a servant, if he be not attributed as the servant of a master, but of a man, of a biped, or anything else of the kind, will not reciprocate, for the attribution is not appropriate. If, however, that to which something is referred be appropriately attributed, everything else accidental being taken away, and this thing alone being left, to which it is appropriately attributed, it may always be referred to it as "a servant." If he is referred to "a master," everything else accidental to the master being left out of the question, (as the being "a biped," and "capable of knowledge," and that he is "a man," and his being "a master," alone, left, here the "servant" will always be referred to him, for a "servant" is said to be the servant of a "master." If again, on the other hand, that to which it is at any time referred is not appropriately attributed, other things being taken away, and that alone left to which it is attributed, in this case it will not be referred to it. For let a "servant" be referred to "man," and a "wing" to "bird," and let the being "a master" be taken away from "man," the servant will no longer refer to man, since "master" not existing, neither does "servant" exist. So also let "being winged" be taken away from "bird," and "wing" will no longer be amongst relatives, for what is "winged," not existing, neither will "wing" be the wing of anything. Hence it is necessary to attribute that to which a thing is appropriately referred, and if indeed a name be already given to it, the application is easy, but if no name be assigned, it is perhaps necessary to invent one, but being thus attributed, it is clear that all relatives are referred to reciprocals. Naturally relatives appear simultaneous, and this is true of the generality of them, for "double" and "half" are simultaneous, and "half" existing, "double" exists, and "a master" existing, the "servant" is, and the "servant" existing, the "master" is, and other things are also like these. These also are mutually subversive, for if there is no "double," there is no "half," and no "half," there is no "double." Likewise as to other things of the same kind. It does not however appear to be true of all relatives that they are by nature simultaneous, for the object of "science" may appear to be prior to "science," since for the most part we derive science from things pre-existing, as in few things, if even any, do we see science and the object originating together. Moreover, the object of science being subverted co-subverts the science, but science being subverted does not co-subvert the object of science, for there being no object of science, science itself becomes non-existent, (since there will be no longer a science of anything). But on the contrary, though science does not exist, there is nothing to prevent the object of science existing. Thus the quadrature of the circle, if it be an object of scientific knowledge, the science of it does not yet exist, though it is itself an object of science. Again, "animal" being taken away, there will not be "science," but still it is possible for many objects of science to be. Likewise, also, do things pertaining to sense subsist, since the sensible seems to be prior to the sense, as the sensible, being subverted, co-subverts sense, but sense does not co-subvert the sensible. For the senses are conversant with body, and are in body, but the sensible being subverted, body also is subverted, (since body is of the number of sensibles), and body not existing, sense also is subverted, so that the sensible co-subverts sense. Sense, on the other hand, does not co-subvert the sensible, since if animal were subverted, sense indeed would be subverted, but yet the sensible will remain, such for instance as "body," "warm," "sweet," "bitter," and every thing else which is sensible. Besides, "sense" is produced simultaneously with what is "sensitive," for at one and the same time "animal" and "sense" are produced, but the "sensible" is prior in existence to "animal" or "sense," for fire and water, and such things as animal consists of, are altogether prior to the existence of animal or sense, so that the sensible will appear to be antecedent to sense. It is doubtful, however, whether no substance is among the number of relatives, as seems to be the case, or whether this happens in certain second substances, for it is true in first substances, since neither the wholes nor the parts of first substances are relative. "A certain man," is not said to be a certain man of something, nor "a certain ox," said to be a certain ox of something, and so also with respect to the parts, for a "certain hand" is not said to be a certain hand of some one, but the hand of some one, and some head is not said to be a certain head of some one, but the head of some one. And in most secondary substances the like occurs. Thus man is not said to be the man of some one, nor an ox the ox of some one, nor the wood of some one, but they are said to be the possession of some one. In such things therefore it is evident that they are not included amongst relatives. In the case of some secondary substances there is a doubt, as "head" is said to be the head of some one, and "hand" the hand of some one, and in like manner every such thing, so that these may appear amongst the number of relatives. If then the definition of relatives has been sufficiently framed, it is either a matter of difficulty or of impossibility to show that no substance is relative. But if the definition has not been sufficiently framed, but those things are relatives whose substance is the same, as consists with a relation, after a certain manner, to a certain thing, somewhat perhaps in reply to this may be stated. The former definition, however, concurs with all relatives, yet it is not the same thing, that their being consists in relation, and that being what they are predicated of other things. Hence it is clear that he who knows any one relative definitely, will also know what is referred to definitely. Wherefore also from this it is apparent, that if one knows this particular thing to be among relatives, and if the substance of relatives is the same, as subsisting in a certain manner, with reference to something, he will also know that, with reference to which, this particular thing, after a certain manner, subsists. For if, in short, he were ignorant of that, with reference to which this particular thing, after a certain manner, subsists, neither would he know whether it subsists after a certain manner, with reference to something. And in singulars, indeed, this is evident. For if any one knows definitely that this thing is "double," he will also forthwith know that, definitely, of which it is the double, since if he knows not that it is the double of something definite, neither will he know that it is "double" at all. So again, if a man knows this thing to be more beautiful than something else, he must straightway and definitely know that, than which it is more beautiful. Wherefore he will not indefinitely know that this is better than that which is worse, for such is opinion, and not science, since he will not accurately know that it is better than something worse, as it may so happen that there is nothing worse than it. Whence it is necessarily evident that whoever definitely knows any relative also definitely knows that to which it is referred. It is possible, notwithstanding, to know definitely what the head, and the hand, and everything of the sort are, which are substances, but it is not necessary to know that to which they are referred, since it is not necessary definitely to know whose is the head, or whose is the hand. Thus these will not be relatives, but if these be not relatives, we may truly affirm no substance to be among relatives. It is perhaps difficult for a man to assert assuredly any thing of such matters, who has not frequently considered them, yet to have submitted each of them to inquiry is not without its use. End of chapter 7. Recording in memory of Mitchell Edwards. Chapter 8 of Categories. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Jeffrey Edwards. Categories by Aristotle. Translated by Octavius Freer Owen. Chapter 8. Of the Quali and of Quality. By quality, I mean that, according to which certain things are said to be what they are. Quality, however, is among those things which are predicated multifariously. Hence, one species of quality is called "habit," and "disposition." But habit differs from disposition in that it is a thing more lasting and stable. Of this kind, too, are both the sciences and the virtues. For science appears to rank among those things which continue more stable, and are hardly removed, even when science is but moderately attained, unless some great change should occur from disease, or from something of the sort. So also virtue, as justice, temperance, and so forth, does not appear capable of being moved or changed with facility. But those are termed dispositions which are easily moved and quickly changed, as heat, cold, disease, health, and such things. Or a man is disposed after a manner according to these, but is rapidly changed, from hot becoming cold, and from health passing to disease. And in like manner as to other things, unless some one of these qualities has, from length of time, become natural, immovable, or at least difficult to be moved, in which case we may term it a habit. But it is evident that those ought to be called habits which are more lasting, and are with greater difficulty removed. For those persons who do not very much retain the dogmas of science, but are easily moved, are said not to possess a scientific habit, although they are in some manner disposed as to science, either worse or better, so that habit differs from disposition in the one being easily removed, but the former is more lasting, and less easily removed. Habits are dispositions also, but dispositions not necessarily habits. For those who have habits are also, after a manner, disposed according to them, but those who are disposed are not altogether possessed of the habit. Another kind of quality is, that according to which we say that men are prone to pugilism, or to the course, or to health, or to disease, in short, whatever things are spoken of according to natural power, or weakness. For each of these is not denominated from being disposed after a certain manner, but from having a natural power or inability of doing something easily, or of not suffering. Thus men are called pugilistic, or fitted for the course, not from being disposed after a certain manner, but from possessing a natural power of doing something easily. Again, they are said to be healthy, from possessing a natural power of not suffering easily from accidents, but to be diseased, from possessing a natural incapacity to resist suffering easily from accidents. Similarly to these, do hard and soft subsist, for that is called hard, which possesses the power of not being easily divided, but soft, that which has an impotence as to the same thing. The third kind of quality consists of passive qualities and passions, and such are sweetness, bitterness, sourness, and all their affinities, besides warmth, and coldness, and whiteness, and blackness. Now, that these are qualities, is evident from their recipients being called from them qualia. As honey from receiving sweetness is said to be sweet, and the body white from receiving whiteness. In like manner in other things. They are called passive qualities, not from the recipients of the quality suffering anything, for neither is honey said to be sweet from suffering anything, nor anything else of such a kind. In like manner to these are heat and cold called passive qualities, not from the recipients themselves suffering anything, but because each of the above-mentioned qualities produces passion in the senses, they are denominated passive qualities. For as sweetness produces a certain passion in the taste, and warmth in the touch, so also do the rest. Whiteness and blackness and other colours are, on the contrary, not called passive qualities, in the same manner with the above-mentioned, but from themselves being produced from passion, for that many changes of colours spring from passion is evident, since when a man blushes he becomes red, and when frightened pale, and so everything of this sort. Whence also, if a man naturally suffers a passion of this nature, he will probably have a similar colour, since the disposition which is now produced about the body when he blushes, may also be produced in the natural constitution, so as that a similar colour should naturally arise. Whatever such symptoms then originate from certain passions difficult to be removed, and permanent, are called passive qualities. For whether in the natural constitution, paleness, or blackness be produced, they are called qualities, for according to them we are called quales, or whether through long disease, or heat, or any such thing, paleness or blackness happens, neither are easily removed, or even remain through life, these are called qualities. For in like manner we are called quales in respect of them. Notwithstanding, such as are produced from things easily dissolved, and quickly restored, are called passions, and not qualities. For men are not called quales in respect of them, since neither is he who blushes in consequence of being ashamed called red, nor he who turns pale from fear called pale. They are rather said to have suffered something, so that such things are called passions, but not qualities. Like these also are passive qualities, and passions denominated in the soul. For such things as supervene immediately upon birth from certain passions difficult of removal are called qualities, as insanity, anger, and such things. For men according to these are said to be quales, that is, wrathful and insane. So also as many other mutations as are not natural, but arise from certain other symptoms, and are with difficulty removed, or even altogether immovable, such are qualities. For men are called quales in respect of them. Those which, on the other hand, arise from things easily and rapidly restored, are called passions. As for instance, where one, being vexed, becomes more wrathful, for he is not called wrathful who is more wrathful in a passion of this kind, but rather he is said to have suffered something, whence such things are called passions, but not qualities. The fourth kind of quality is figure, and the form, which is about everything, besides rectitude and curvature, and whatever is like them. For according to each of these, a thing is called quale. Thus a triangle or a square is said to be a thing of a certain quality, also a straight line or a curve, and everything is said to be quale according to form. The rare and the dense, the rough and the smooth, may appear to signify a certain quality, but probably these are foreign from the division of quality, as each appears rather to denote a certain position of parts. For a thing is said to be dense from having its parts near each other, but rare from their being distant from each other, and smooth from its parts lying in some respect in a right line, but rough from this part rising and the other falling. There may perhaps appear to be some other mode of quality, but those we have enumerated are most commonly called so. The above named therefore are qualities, but qualia are things denominated paronymously according to them, or in some other manner from them. Most indeed, and nearly all of them, are called paronymously, as a white man, from whiteness, a grammarian, from grammar, a just man, from justice, and similarly of the rest. Still in some, from no names having been given to the qualities, it is impossible that they should be called paronymously from them. For instance, a racer, or pugilist, so called from natural power, is paronymously denominated from no quality, since names are not given to those powers, after which these men are called quales, as they are given to sciences, according to which men are said to be pugilists, or wrestlers from disposition, for there is said to be a pugilistic and palestric science, from which those disposed to them are paronymously denominated quales. Sometimes, however, the name being assigned, that which is called quale, according to it, is not denominated paronymously, as from virtue, a man is called worthy, for he is called worthy from possessing virtue, but not paronymously from virtue. This, however, does not often happen. Wherefore those things are called qualia, which are paronymously denominated from the above mentioned qualities, or which are in some other manner termed from them. In quality there is also contrariety, as justice is contrary to injustice, and whiteness to blackness, and the like. Also those things which subsist according to them are termed qualia, as the unjust to the just, and the white to the black. This, however, does not happen in all cases, for to the yellow, or the pale, or such like colours, though they are qualities, there is no contrary. Besides, if one contrary be a quality, the other will also be a quality, and this is evident to any one considering the other categories. For instance, if justice be contrary to injustice, and justice be a quality, then injustice will also be a quality, for none of the other categories accords with injustice, neither quantity, nor relation, nor where, nor in short anything of the kind, except quality. and the like also happens as to quality in the other contraries. Qualia also admit the more and the less, as one thing is said to be more or less "white" than another, and one more and less "just" than another. The same thing also itself admits accession, for what is "white" can become more "white." This, however, does not happen with all, but with most things. For some one may doubt whether justice can be said to be more or less justice, and so also in other dispositions, since some doubt about such, and assert that justice cannot altogether be called more and less than justice, nor health than health, but they say that one man has less health than another, and one person less justice than another, and so also of the grammatical and other dispositions. Still the things which are denominated according to these, do without question admit the more and the less. For one man is said to be more grammatical than another, and more healthy, and more just, and similarly in other things. Triangle and square appear nevertheless incapable of the more, as also every other figure, since those things which receive the definition of a triangle and of a circle are all alike triangles or circles, but of things which do not receive the same definition, none can be said to be more such than another, as a square is not more a circle than an oblong, for neither of them admits the definition of the circle. In a word, unless both receive the definition of the thing propounded, one cannot be said to be more so and so than another, wherefore all qualities do not admit the more and the less. Of the above mentioned particulars then, no one is peculiar to quality, but things are said to be similar and dissimilar in respect of qualities alone. For one thing is not like another in respect of anything else, than so far as it is quale, so that it will be peculiar to quality, that the like and the unlike should be termed so in respect of it. Yet we need not be disturbed, lest any one should say that, proposing to speak of quality, we co-enumerate many things which are relatives. For we said that habits and dispositions are among the number of relatives, and nearly in all such things the genera are called relatives, but not one of the singulars. Science, for example, although it is a genus, is said to be what it is with respect to something else, for it is said to be the science of a certain thing, but of singulars not one is said to be what it is, with reference to something else, as neither grammar is said to be the grammar of something, nor music the music of something, but even perhaps these are called relatives according to genus, as grammar is said to be the science of something, not the grammar of something, and music the science of something, not the music of something, so that singulars are not of the number of relatives. Still we are called quales from singulars, for these we possess, as we are called scientific from possessing certain singular sciences, so that these may be singular qualities, according to which we are sometimes denominated quales, but they are not relatives. Besides, if the same thing should happen to be both a particular quality and a relative, there is no absurdity in its enumeration under both genera. Chapter 9. Of action, passion, and the other categories of position, when, where, and possession. Action and passion admit contrariety, and the more and the less. For to make warm is contrary to making cold, to be warm contrary to the being cold, to be pleased contrary to being grieved, so that they admit contrariety. They are also capable of the more and the less, for it is possible to heat more and less, to be heated more and less, and to be grieved more and less, Wherefore to act and to suffer admit the more and less, and so much may be said of these. But we have spoken of the being situated in our treatment of relatives, to the effect that it is paronymously denominated from positions, as regards the other categories, when, where, and to have, nothing else is said of them than what was mentioned at first, because they are evident, e.g. that to have signifies to be shod, to be armed, where, as in the Lyceum, in the Forum, and the rest which are spoken of these. Of the proposed genera therefore sufficient has been stated. Chapter 10. Of Opposites. We must now speak of opposites, in how many ways opposition takes place. One thing then is said to be opposed to another in 4 ways, either as relative, or as contrary, or as privation and habit, or as affirmation and negation. Thus speaking summarily, each thing of this kind is opposed relatively as the double to the half, contrarily as evil to good, privately and habitually as blindness and sight, affirmatively and negatively as he sits, he does not sit. Whatever things then are relatively opposed are said to be what they are with reference to opposites, or are in some manner referred to them, as the double of the half is said to be what it is with reference to something else, for it is said to be the double of something, and knowledge is opposed relatively to the object of knowledge, and is said to be what it is in reference to what may be known, and what may be known is said to be what it is in reference to an opposite, namely knowledge. For the object of knowledge is said to be so, to something, namely to knowledge. Things therefore relatively opposed are said to be what they are with reference to opposites, or in whatever manner they are referable to each other. But those which are opposed as contraries are by no means said to be what they are with reference to each other, but are said to be contrary to each other. For neither is good said to be the good of evil, but the contrary of evil, nor is white denominated the white of black, but its contrary, so that these oppositions differ from each other. Such contraries, however, as are of that kind, that one of them must necessarily be in those things in which it can naturally be, or of which it is predicated, these have nothing intermediate. But in the case of those, in which it is not necessary that one should be inherent, there is something intermediate. For instance, health and disease may naturally subsist in the body of an animal, and it is necessary that one should be therein, either disease or health. The odd and even are also predicated of number, and one of the two, either the odd or the even, must necessarily be in number. Yet there is nothing intermediate between these, neither between disease and health, nor between the odd and the even. Those contraries again have something intermediate, in which one of them need not be inherent, as black and white are naturally in body, but it is not necessary that one of these should be inherent in body, for every body is not white or black. Vileness also and worth are predicated of man, and of many others, yet one of these need not be in those things of which it is predicated, for not all things are either vile or worthy, at least there is something intermediate, as between white and black, there is dark brown and pale, and many other colours, but between vileness and worth, that is intermediate which is neither vile nor worthy. In some instances the intermediates have names, thus the dark brown, and the pale, and such colours are media between white and black, but in other cases it is not easy to assign a name to the intermediate, but the latter is defined by the negation of either extreme, as for example, whatever is neither good nor bad, nor just nor unjust. Privation, however, and habit are predicated of something identical, as sight and blindness of the eye, and universally, in whatever the habit is naturally adapted to be produced, of such is either predicated. We say then that each of the things capable of receiving habit is deprived of it when it is not in that, wherein it might naturally be, and when it is adapted naturally to possess it. Thus we say that a man is toothless, not because he has no teeth, and blind, not because he has no sight, but because he has them not when he might naturally have them. For some persons from their birth have neither sight nor teeth, yet they are neither called toothless nor blind. To be deprived of, and to possess habit, then, are not privation and habit, for the sight is habit, but the privation is blindness. But to possess sight is not sight, nor to be blind blindness, for blindness is a certain privation, but the being blind is to be deprived, and is not privation. For if blindness were the same as being blind, both might be predicated of the same person. But a man is said to be blind, yet he is never called blindness. To be deprived also, and to possess habit, appear to be similarly opposed, as privation and habit, since the mode of opposition is the same. For as blindness is opposed to sight, so likewise is the being blind opposed to the possession of sight. Neither is that which falls under affirmation and negation, affirmation and negation. For affirmation is an affirmative sentence, and negation a negative sentence, but nothing which falls under affirmation and negation is a sentence, but a thing. Still these are said to be mutually opposed, as affirmation and negation, since in them the mode of opposition is the same. For as affirmation is sometimes opposed to negation, for example, he sits, to he does not sit, so that thing which is under each is opposed, as sitting to not sitting. But that privation and habit are not opposed as relatives is evident, since what a thing is not asserted of its opposite. For sight is not the sight of blindness, nor in any other way spoken in reference to it. So also blindness cannot be called the blindness of sight, but blindness indeed is said to be the privation of sight, not the blindness of sight. Moreover, all relatives are referred to reciprocals, so that if blindness were relative, it would not reciprocate with that to which it is referred. But it does not reciprocate, for sight is not said to be the sight of blindness. From these things also it is manifest that those which are predicated according to privation and habit are not contrarily opposed. For of contraries, which have no intermediate, one must always necessarily be inherent, wherein it is naturally adapted to be inherent, or of which it is predicated. But between these there is no intermediate thing, wherein it was necessary that the one should be in what was capable of receiving it, as in the case of disease and health, in odd and the even number. Of those, however, between which there is an intermediate, it is never necessary that one should be inherent in every thing. For neither is it necessary that every thing capable of receiving it should be white or black, or hot or cold, since there is no prevention to an intermediate being between them. Again, of these also there was a certain medium, of which it was not requisite that one should be in its recipient, unless where one is naturally inherent, as in fire to be hot, and in snow to be white. Still in these, one must of necessity be definitely inherent, and not in whatever way it may happen, for neither does it happen that fire is cold, nor that snow is black, wherefore it is not necessary that one of them should be in every thing capable of receiving it, but only in those wherein the one is naturally inherent, and in these, that which is definitely and not casually one. In privation, however, and habit, neither of the above-mentioned particulars is true, since it is not always necessary that one should be inherent in what is capable of receiving it, as what is not yet naturally adapted to have sight, is neither said to be blind nor to have sight, wherefore these things will not be of such contraries as have nothing intermediate, but neither on the other hand will they be amongst those which have something intermediate, since it is necessary that at some time one of them should be inherent in every thing capable of receiving it. Thus when a man is naturally fitted to have sight, then he will be said to be blind, or to have sight, and one of these, not definitely, but whichever may happen, since he need not necessarily be blind, nor see, but either as it may happen. In respect, nevertheless, of contraries, which have an intermediate, it is by no means necessary that one should be inherent in everything, but in some things, and in these one of them definitely, and neither casually, so that things which are opposed according to privation and habit, are evidently not in either of these ways opposed, as contraries. Again, in contraries, when the recipient exists, a change into each other may happen, unless one is naturally inherent in something, as for instance in fire to be hot. It is possible also for the healthy to be sick, and the white to become black, cold to become hot, and the hot to become cold. From good it is possible to become bad, and from bad, good. For he who is depraved, being led to better pursuits and discourses, advances, though but a little, to be better. And if he once makes an advancement ever so little, he will evidently become either altogether changed, or have made a very great proficiency, since he ever becomes more disposed to virtue, even if he has obtained the smallest increase from the beginning. Wherefore he will probably acquire greater increase, and this perpetually occurring, he will at last be transformed entirely to a contrary habit, unless he be prevented by time. But in privation and habit it is impossible for a mutual change to occur, since it may take place from habit to privation, but from privation to habit it is impossible, as neither can he who has become blind again see, the bald again have hair, nor has the toothless ever yet again got teeth. Whatever things are opposed, as affirmation and negation, are evidently opposed according to none of the above-mentioned modes, since in these alone it is always necessary that one should be true, but the other false, as neither is it always necessary in contraries that one should be true, but the other false, nor in relatives, nor in habit and privation. For instance, health and disease are contrary, yet neither of them is either true or false. So also the double and the half are relatively opposed, and neither of them is either true or false, nor in things which are predicated as to privation and habit, as sight and blindness. In short, nothing predicated without any conjunction is either true or false, and all the above named are predicated without conjunction, not but that a thing of this kind may appear to happen in contraries, which are predicated conjunctively. For Socrates is well is opposed to Socrates is sick. Yet neither in these is it always necessary that one should be true and the other false. For while Socrates lives, one will be true and the other false, but when he is not alive, both will be false, since neither is it true that Socrates is sick, nor that he is well, when he is not in existence at all. In privation and habit, then, when the subject is non-existent, neither is true, but when the subject exists, the one is not always true, nor the other false. Socrates sees, is opposed to Socrates is blind, as privation and habit, and whilst he exists, one need not be true or false, for when he is not naturally fitted to possess them, both are false, but when Socrates does not exist at all, both will thus be false, that he sees and that he is blind. In affirmation and negation always, if Socrates be or be not, one will always be false, and the other true. For it is evident with respect to these two, Socrates is sick, and Socrates is not sick, that when he exists, one of them is true, and the other false, and in like manner when he does not exist, for in the latter case, that he is ill is false, but that he is not ill is true, so that in those things alone which are affirmatively and negatively opposed, will it be the peculiarity that one of them is either true or false. Chapter 11. Opposites continued, especially as to the contrariety between the evil and the good. Evil is of necessity opposed to good, and this is evident from an induction of singulars, as disease to health, and cowardice to courage, and similarly of the rest. But to evil, at one time good is contrary, and at another evil, for to indigence, being an evil, excess is contrary, which is also an evil. In like manner, mediocrity, which is a good, is opposed to each of them. A man may perceive this in respect of a few instances, but in the majority the contrary to evil is always good. Again, of contraries it is not required, if one is, that the remainder should be. For when every man is well, there will indeed be health, and not disease, and so also when all things are white, there will be whiteness, but not blackness. Besides, if Socrates is well, be the contrary of Socrates is ill, and both cannot possibly be inherent in the same subject, it follows that when one of the contraries exists, the other cannot possibly exist. For Socrates is well, existing, Socrates is ill, cannot exist. Contraries, however, evidently are, by their nature, adapted to subsist about the same thing, either in species or genus, since disease and health naturally subsist in the body of an animal, but whiteness and blackness simply in body, and justice and injustice in the soul of man. Notwithstanding, it is requisite that all contraries be either in the same genus, or in contrary genera, or be genera themselves. For white and black are in the same genus, as colour is the genus of them, but justice and injustice in contrary genera. For virtue is the genus of one, but vice of the other. Lastly, good and bad are not in a genus, but are themselves the genera of certain things. Chapter 12. Of Priority. A thing is said to be prior to another in 4 respects. First, and most properly, in respect of time, according to which, one is said to be older and more ancient than another, since it is called older and more ancient because the time is longer. Next, when it does not reciprocate according to the consequence of existence. Thus one is prior to 2. For 2 existing, it follows directly that one exists. But when one is, it is not necessary that 2 should be. Hence the consequence of the remainder's existence does not reciprocate from the existence of the one. but such a thing appears to be prior, from which the consequence of existence does not reciprocate. Thirdly, the prior is that predicated according to a certain order, as in the instance of sciences and discourses. For in demonstrative sciences the prior and the posterior subsist in order, since the elements are prior in order to the diagrams, and in grammar, letters are before syllables. So also of discourses, as the proem is prior in order to the narration. Moreover, besides what we have mentioned, the better and more excellent appear to be prior by nature. The common people are accustomed to say that those whom they chiefly honour and especially regard are prior in their esteem. But this is nearly the most foreign of all the modes, wherefore such are (nearly) the modes of priority which have been enumerated. Besides the above mentioned, there may yet appear to be another mode of the prior, as of things reciprocating according to the consequence of existence. That which in any respect is the cause of the existence of the one, may justly be said to be by nature prior, and that there are certain things of this kind is manifest. For that man exists, reciprocates according to the consequence of existence, with the true sentence respecting him, since if man is, the sentence is true, by which we say that man is, and it reciprocates, since if the sentence be true, by which we say that man is, then man is. Notwithstanding, a true sentence is by no means the cause of a thing's existence, but in some way the thing appears the cause of the sentence being true. For in consequence of a thing existing or not existing is a sentence said to be true or false. Wherefore one thing may be called prior to another, according to 5 modes. Chapter 13. Of Things Simultaneous. Things are called simultaneous simply and most properly whose generation occurs at the same time, for neither is prior or posterior. These therefore are said to be simultaneous as to time, but by nature those are simultaneous which reciprocate according to the consequence of existence, although one is by no means the cause of the existence of the other, as in the double and the half, for these reciprocate. Thus the double existing, the half also exists, and the half existing, the double exists, but neither is the cause of existence to the other. Those also, which being derived from the same genus, are by division mutually opposed, are said to be naturally simultaneous, but they are said to have a division opposite to each other, which subsist according to the same division. Thus the winged is opposed to pedestrian and aquatic, as these being derived from the same genus are by division mutually opposed. For animal is divided into these, viz. Into the winged, the pedestrian, and aquatic, and none of these is prior or posterior, but things of this kind appear naturally simultaneous. Each of these again may be divided into species, for instance the winged, the pedestrian, and the aquatic. Wherefore those will be naturally simultaneous which, derived from the same genus, subsist according to the same division. But genera are always prior to species, since they do not reciprocate according to the consequence of existence. For the aquatic existing, animal exists, but though animal exists, it is not necessary that the aquatic should. Hence those are called naturally simultaneous, which indeed reciprocate, according to the consequence of existence, but the one is by no means the cause of existence to the other, which is also the case with things that, derived from the same genus, have by division a mutual opposition. Those however are simply simultaneous whose generation is at the same time. Chapter 14. Of Motion. Of motion there are 6 species: generation, corruption, increase, diminution, alteration, and change of place. The other motions then evidently differ from each other, for neither is generation, corruption, nor increase, diminution, nor alteration, change of place, and so of the rest. In the case of alteration, however, there is some doubt whether it be not sometimes necessary that what is altered be so in respect of some one of the other motions, but this is not true. For it happens that we are altered as to nearly all the passions, or at least the greater part of them, without any participation of the other motions. For it is not necessary that what is passively moved should be either increased or diminished. Wherefore alteration will differ from the other motions, since if it were the same, it would be necessary that what is altered be forthwith increased, or diminished, or follow some of the other motions, but this is not necessary. Similarly also, what is increased or moved with any other motion ought to be altered (in quality), but some things are increased which are not so altered, as a square is increased when a gnomon is placed about it, but it has not become altered (in quality), and in like manner with other things of this kind, so that these motions will differ from each other. Nevertheless, simply, rest is contrary to motion, the several rests to the several motions, corruption to generation, diminution to increase, rest in place to change in place, but change to a contrary place seems especially opposed, as ascent to descent, downwards to upwards. Still it is not easy to define the contrary to the remainder of these specified motions, but it seems to have no contrary, unless some one should oppose to this rest according to quality, or change of quality into its contrary, just as in change of place, rest according to place, or change to a contrary place. For alteration is the mutation of quality, so that to motion according to quality will rest according to quality, or change to the contrary of the quality be opposed. Thus becoming white is opposed to becoming black, since a change in quality occurs, there being an alteration of quality into contraries. Chapter 15. Of the verb to have. To have is predicated in many modes, either as habit and disposition, or some other quality. For we are said to have knowledge and virtue. Or as to quantity, as the size which any one has, thus he is said to have the size of 3 or 4 cubits. Or as things about the body, as a garment, or a tunic. Or as in a part, as a ring in the hand, or as a part, as the hand or the foot, or as in a vessel, as a bushel has wheat, or a flagon wine, for the flagon is said to have the wine, and the bushel the wheat. All these therefore are said to have, as in a vessel, or as a possession, for we are said to have a house or land. A man is also said to have a wife, and the wife a husband, but the mode now mentioned of to have seems the most foreign, for we mean nothing else by having a wife than that she cohabits with a man. There may perhaps appear to be some other modes of having, but those usually mentioned have nearly all been enumerated. End of Categories by Aristotle. Translated by Octavius Freer Owen. Recording in memory of Mitchell Edwards.